Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right after this to my super chat. Your support is greatly appreciated. This is from a report by Congressman Loudermilk, Republican. The January 6th Select Committee neglected or withheld evidence in its final report and deleted voluminous records. It should have preserved. That is against the law. This is the report. Chairman Loudermilk releases 2nd January report. The AUTOPEN is not valid according to House GOP and James Comer. The AUTOPEN, you could just ask George Clooney if the AUTOPEN was valid. George Clooney wrote an op-ed calling for Biden to step down. It was because of cognitive issues. Well, why was Biden forced to step down? We'll get to all of that. Hit subscribe to my super chat. Again, can't do these without you, ladies and gentlemen. Your support is so greatly appreciated.
Yeah, it's worse than Watergate. That was one break-in. The Biden presidency by AUTOPEN went on for years, keeping America in the dark to this day about who was really acting as president. And the story keeps getting worse. Former Jill Biden aide, dubbed her work husband, Anthony Bernal, long thought to be a prime Biden puppet master, just got hit by a subpoena by Congressman James Comer after refusing to appear before the House Oversight Committee for a transcribed interview today. The former First Lady, of course, insists all along, though, that Joe was fully in command.
I did not create a cocoon around him. You saw him in the Oval Office. You saw him making speeches. He wasn't hiding somewhere. I didn't have him, sequestered in some place.
One Biden aide did show up, though, on the Hill this week, Neera Tanden. She admitted she was authorized to direct AUTOPEN signatures, but when she was pressed on who gave final clearance for the decisions, she claimed she had no idea.
Well, Biden has stated that he knew of all the pardons. So why didn't she claim that Biden gave the final say? Anyway, this, ladies and gentlemen, is the report that can be used or will be used to indict Liz Cheney, especially when House GOP, James Comer and the Oversight Committee just today deemed the AUTOPEN pardons void. Liz Cheney is accused by Congressman Loudermilk, President Trump, and a whole bunch of people of destroying and deleting documents. Those are serious, serious felonies. Let's continue.
Here to weigh in is House Oversight Committee member Congressman Byron Donalds. He's also running for governor in Florida. Congressman, do you believe that Neera Tanden, one of the top Biden aides for years, had no idea about who cleared these AUTOPEN signatures?
No, I don't believe her. I think she's lying. I think she's obfuscating. And the reason why is they did build a cocoon around Joe Biden. They did not want Joe Biden really around members of Congress, cabinet officials. That's why there were really no cabinet meetings at all. I think the last one was run by Joe Biden. They did not want anybody in contact with him because, as you could quickly see, spending 5 minutes with the man, like the special counsel had to do, you realize that he had no real control over his mental capabilities in order to do the job as commander-in-chief. And Laura, look, compare Joe Biden's activity level to Donald Trump's today, Barack Obama's before him, George W. Bush before that, a completely different environment than the one that Joe Biden had in that White House. So that's why we're investigating.
A source close to Anthony Bernal told us that calling his non-appearance on the Hill a refusal is misleading. Apparently there's a request to reschedule the interview. So that's what they're saying. But look, if you want to clear this up, you could have cleared this up months ago.
To the live viewers, to the people in the comments section, why did Biden resign, or why was he forced out of the candidacy, or after he won his primary? Why did George Clooney and media and Hollywood and Democrats force Biden out and allow Harris to usurp him? Why? What was the reason? What was the reason that Biden did not face Trump in 2024 after having won his primary? What was the reason? The answer to that leads to the indictment of Cheney and others.
Correct? I mean, when we found out there was an AUTOPEN involved for a lot of decisions, not just for the ceremonial letters and so forth, that was easy to just clear up. But they've been running for cover, have they not been?
They've been running the entire time. Anthony Bernal was scheduled to come in today, but when the Trump administration waived executive privilege, all of a sudden he was a no-show. So that's why he got slapped with a subpoena. That's the real story. And so he needs to come in. We are going to make him come in and answer questions under oath, because we can't have a situation where an American president is essentially being run by his staff, not having any knowledge of what's going on, and signing documents, whether they're executive orders, legislation, or even the cordial letters that presidents will want to do. You can't have that stuff being signed without the expressed authorization of the President of the United States, and it is looking.
So Congressman Donalds is correct. Obviously, the Constitution allows the president to pardon, gives the president broad powers to pardon people. However, the president has to be cognizant and aware and lucid and needs to know who he's pardoning. You can't just simply say, well, the AUTOPEN's been used by other presidents. So what? Other presidents weren't forced out by George Clooney because of potential cognitive issues, obvious cognitive issues. Okay, this is why Democrats are at an all-time low in terms of popularity. You can't lie that often and then claim that everyone else is lying. Okay, they forced out their own candidate for president who was an incumbent president who had won his primary. Again, hit subscribe if you're new to this channel. These are facts that can never be disputed, ever. Biden won his primary. Millions of people voted for Biden. Harris didn't get even one vote. She was allowed to usurp Biden because of, in part, an op-ed by George Clooney. And of course, George Clooney did not single-handedly remove Biden. It was the Democratic Party that removed the most popular candidate of all time in 2020, less than 4 years later, and made the vice president the candidate against Trump, President Trump, in 2024. There's obvious issues with the pardons. If they didn't trust Biden to defeat Trump because of the issues that he faced, then how on earth are the
more and more that Joe Biden did not give his express authorization because he couldn't give an express authorization?
Well, I think it's probably a smaller list to ask, what key decisions did Joe Biden make? I mean, that's probably a better way to phrase it. I mean, give us the key decisions he actually made, because it doesn't seem like they're.
Biden herself, the chief of staff. The testimony I'm looking forward to is the White House doctors, because Joe Biden's medical records were actually held away from the American people. They were keeping those secret.
It's been always great to see you. Thank you very much. In the history books,
we have never had a president that was forced to step down. I want you to, in the comments section, in the live chat, why was he forced? Despises Trump and happens to stumble upon this channel and this YouTube segment, this live stream that upload. Why was Biden forced to step down when he won his primary? Now, the answer correlates to why the January pardons are completely null and void. If Democrats didn't trust Biden 4 more years, or even 3, 4, 5 months, not even 4 months, until he faced Trump again, President Trump, how on earth are these AUTOPEN pardons valid? The president himself has to sign, or at least has to know who he's pardoning. Do we know that Biden was aware of who was being pardoned?
Term presidency of Joe Biden, historians will probably lie about it and said it was successful. But the question remains, who was really pulling the strings and making the decisions for those 4 years? The Senate held its first hearing today on Biden's cognitive decline. Republicans were looking for answers on who is making the pivotal calls and then demanding changes so this can never happen again.
The 25th Amendment requires actions by the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to declare the president incapacitated, incapable of carrying out his or her duties. There doesn't appear to be any accountability or any remedy when they fail to act as they did in this case.
They lied to us for 4 years, and we know they lied. They know they lied. It's why they're not here.
What did the president actually know or even understand, and who was actually running the government? President Biden.
Chuck Grassley is 90 years old. He's sharp as a tack. He's slowed down a tiny bit, but my God, he's lucid. He can articulate his thoughts. He's 90.
Biden will have to answer to history for what's happened the last 4 years.
Who was running the show? Pretty important question, don't you think? Now, Democratic lawmakers completely boycotted the hearing. No surprise there. Illinois Senator Dick Durbin, Vermont Senator Peter Welch were the only two in attendance. Here to tell us more is Missouri Senator Eric Schmidt. Senator, of course, you were in the room today. The Democrats didn't want to give you guys any room to kind of go back to the Biden failures. And Dick Durbin tried to turn things around and say, look, we should be talking about Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and their excesses. Your response to that?
Well, I think it's a shame. It shouldn't be that surprising, though. Effectively, they ignored the hearing today like they ignored Joe Biden's cognitive decline. They lied to the American people. So did the legacy media. And I think the American people deserve to know. I've been asked time and time again over the years, who is actually running the country? You know, having a capable president is actually kind of important in our constitutional republic. It's the one person that's actually elected by the whole country. And so when the president signs something, whether it's a bill or a treaty or a letter, he is speaking on behalf of the American people. Clearly, Joe Biden's decline in his inability to do those things was on full display. You've had whistleblowers come forward saying he couldn't even find the bathroom in the Oval Office. So this was, I think, in my view, a scandal bigger than Watergate. And so in addition to just looking backwards and trying to figure out who was actually running the country, these left-wing radicals who opened up our borders and caused inflation and had a wandering foreign policy, what do we do about it moving forward? How can you have a mechanism actually that would address this? And you know, I've said often that Joe Biden is the worst president this side of Woodrow Wilson. Ironically, you had the same problem 100 years ago with Woodrow Wilson, where he was incapacitated and his wife was running the government. That's probably what was happening here too. So this is going to continue, Laura. We're going to continue. We're going to seek documents.
The question is, who was running the government? They forced an incumbent president out. Where in history, in any democracy, or like, when has this happened? Where the incumbent political party forces out the sitting president or prime minister because of cognitive issues? I'm sure it's happened. Maybe it has never happened in that manner. Where is the precedent for what took place with Biden? That's what I'm asking. I'm actually asking that. Is there a precedent?
That came out of today, we're going to seek documents from the archivist. They're supposed to keep a paper trail of when he actually authorized the AUTOPEN. We'll see if they actually did that or not.
Well, Senator, Jake Tapper made an appearance on C-SPAN today. He published that supposed tell-all, a lot of anonymous sources, but he took some questions from callers. Watch.
Back in 2020, you had an interview with Laura Trump, and she even told you, and you said it was his stutter. If you watch Fox News or News Nation or even Newsmax, every night they would bring up what the problems were, how he couldn't talk, how he didn't know what he was doing.
I mean, I ran those clips on my show, too. I understand.
He ran those clips on his show, too. No. If he ran the clips, almost always it was to say that, he can... all of this is taken out of context, out of proportion. Biden's fine. There was not one segment on CNN ever in 2020 or the next 2-3 years that said Biden was mentally not capable of performing any tasks. And that only started when, again, the George Clooney article. And again, George Clooney did not single-handedly remove Biden, but he was one of the driving forces, potentially.
That people feel like that a lot of these clips and a lot of these acuity issues were known. And I don't disagree.
Senator, this whole exercise in
media covered up for Biden, just like they covered up for the laptop, Hunter's laptop, just like they covered up for the Clinton emails debacle with top secret intelligence on servers, just like they pretended that Trump worked with Russia, just like they said that Trump called 1930s, 1940s Germans fine people, which he didn't. Only 10% of Americans actually truly have confidence in media, 10 or 12%, something like that. 90% don't have full confidence and faith in media.
Talk in this book, and I reported, but I understand basically your pain and your doubts. I just don't think anyone's buying any of this. The media has done irreparable damage to itself after Russia collusion, the Letitia James reporting, all of that, and now this. I don't see how they recover, frankly, in our lifetime.
I don't think so. They had no credibility before. They have less than zero credibility now. And you got to remember, what was this really about on their side? They knew he was in cognitive decline. He knew he was incapable. They were just so obsessed with making sure President Trump never got back in the Oval Office again. It's the same reason why they defended all the lawfare that sought to put President Trump in jail for the rest of his life so he couldn't get back in the Oval Office. And now here we are. President Trump defied all the odds, had the greatest political comeback in American history, and the American people saw through all those lies too, because they were looking at all of this stuff on video too, on the news. So I think we ought to continue this pursuit. We got to make sure people are held accountable, and this never happens again.
Well, there are a number of people who know exactly what happened, and I think we know who they are, but whether they will talk or not, that remains.
1 spoonful of honey with
Welcome to Hannity. And tonight, Democrats, their friends in the state-run legacy media mob, they were wrong again. Another anti-Trump smear is now poof. It's up in smoke, despite their doom and gloom predictions about Donald Trump and the economy. Oh, sad news. Second quarter growth is now slated to smash all expectations. The Atlanta Fed.
So this has been an issue for the past couple of months. Let's continue.
Predicting a whopping 6.6% growth in the second quarter. At the same time, job creation way up in the country. Wages are up. Inflation, it's at the Fed's benchmark of 2.1. Well, they want 2.0, 0.1% off. In other words, President Donald Trump is keeping his word. The state-run legacy media mob, they look stupid. They look foolish. Once again, the punditry class, forget it. They're absolutely useless, which is not why nobody watches them anymore. We've got all the details coming up in a few minutes and polling numbers that you're going to want to see as well. Also tonight, left-leaning statistician. Well, no, Nate Silver into young male voters. The Department of Justice has officially opened a major investigation into the Biden administration's prolific use of the AUTOPEN, especially during Biden's final days.
People are either going to be indicted or the AUTOPEN is going to be null and void. The Supreme Court is not going to back Biden's AUTOPEN because there is an issue with cognitive ability, acuity, or mental capacity. Okay? If Biden was of sound mind, there would be no issue with the AUTOPEN. The issue is that he was forced out. Democrats ripped up the AUTOPEN pardons themselves by forcing Biden out.
In office. Let me make a prediction here tonight. There are people that will be in a lot of trouble before this is all said and done. In fact, out of the scores of Biden's last-minute pardons, only one appeared to be physically signed by Joe Biden. Take a look.
When you look at these last-minute Biden pardons, the big ones, Biden siblings, Fauci, January 6th committee.
That's right.
Most of the big ones have the same very neat signature. We would expect that probably to be the AUTOPEN. There is one that looks different. It looks authentic. In fact, if you look at the last name, it almost looks like the president was having a hard time spelling his last name there. Is this White House of the opinion that the only pardon that would count is one that the president signed himself?
It's very interesting. Very interesting props. If you want to bring them to my office later so I can take a closer look, I would like to do that. The president is making a good point when he discusses the usage of the AUTOPEN. Who was running the country for the past 4 years? Perhaps those documents were signed with the AUTOPEN, something that I believe the Department of Justice is looking into. As you saw, Ed Martin made an announcement at the Department of Justice this morning to launch an investigation because the American people deserve answers.
All right, that certainly doesn't look good, does it? Now, as a reminder, multiple.
The rebuttal is that, well, the AUTOPEN has been used by other presidents. That's true. That's true. The AUTOPEN has been used by other presidents. The AUTOPEN can be used. The AUTOPEN cannot be used by a person who is not mentally sound. The AUTOPEN cannot be used by a president who doesn't know who he is pardoning. That is the accusation. Democrats essentially they are the ones who made the pardons of Cheney and others null and void because they removed Biden from the 2024 presidential race, the presidential contest. Why did they remove Biden? The answer makes the AUTOPEN pardons null and void. Why did they remove Biden? The answer allows Trump, the DOJ, to indict Liz Cheney and others for potentially destroying and deleting evidence.
Multiple presidents, they have directed staff to use the AUTOPEN to sign official documents, but the key word here is directed. Past presidents directed their staff to use the AUTOPEN, typically when they were out of town. Now, does anyone on either side of the aisle or in the state-run legacy media mob actually believe Joe Biden was capable of directing his staff to do anything in those final days when they thought they'd run him for re-election and just bring out proof of life occasionally if he won again? It was the other way around. Take a look.
I'm sorry, I'm going to get in trouble with staff if I don't do this the right way. I'm going to get in trouble with my staff. Yeah, go ahead, but I pretend that you didn't answer you. Am I allowed to take any questions? Anybody here at staff? You know, I thought when I got to be president, I'd get to do things that I wanted to do, but my staff tells me what I can't do.
Oh, remember? They controlled every aspect of the president's life. The president of our country is the only person with the power to issue federal pardons, sign executive orders, and sign bills into law. He can do it with his hand, or he can order the use of the AUTOPEN, but it must come from the president, not a cabal of weird advisors who make decisions behind the scenes while Biden is napping every day, pretty much all day.
So Biden can say, hey, I verbally gave people authority. The problem, however, is that none of Biden's staffers want to be the person in Congress, in testimony, under oath, to say, oh, yeah, the president gave me the authority. Nobody wants to step up and say, the president gave the authority to this individual or that individual or to me. So this is hilarious. They lied so much, and they can't even tell the truth about who they pardoned. This is what's so amusing about everything, and this is why the AUTOPEN pardons will be null and void, and this is why people could potentially be indicted. All of those staffers are being forced to testify under oath. They're either claiming the Fifth Amendment, or they're saying, I don't remember, I don't recall, all of that. Well, then, if nobody knows how and when Biden made these pardons, or that if nobody around Biden knew when and why he pardoned Liz Cheney, when and why, then Liz Cheney's pardon, the January committee pardon, is null and void. It's null and void not only because of that, but because they forced him out. He wasn't of sound mind, not according to me, not according to you, according to Democrats. Democrats themselves didn't think Biden had the mental or the cognitive abilities to continue. So how on earth could Democrats defend his pardons?
So let's be clear. This is a very real, credible allegation from multiple sources, including the new book from the very low-rated Fake Jake Tapper at Fake News CNN. Based on all the evidence, our own observations, it was obvious, transparent, it was clear. We pointed it out first in 2019 that Biden was mentally incompetent and president in name only, while his senior advisors were running the country by committee. This is a massive security threat and was a security threat to our country. It raises serious questions about whether Biden even knew the AUTOPEN was being used. And if that is the case, none of his AUTOPEN signatures are valid. None of the pardons are legal. And his senior advisors, that would mean they broke the law, violated the Constitution in very serious ways. If true, this would be far worse than Watergate. So tonight, there are two key questions that must be answered. Was Biden mentally unable to perform the duties of the White House? The answer to me seems obvious.
Was Biden mentally unable to perform the duties of the White House? The Democrats themselves stated he was not capable. They removed him from the presidential contest. They removed him after he won his primary, which is another insidious. They don't even have functioning primaries. Ask Bernie Sanders. But Bernie Sanders, they cheated before he could possibly win. Biden won his primary. Okay, this is the blind spot within Democratic Party politics that will continue to sink that political party. Biden won his primary. Millions and millions of Democrats voted for Biden. Then how did Harris become nominee? How is that possible? Within the 700 or 800 people watching, how is that possible? Well, the Democrats don't have functioning primaries, but what's the other reason? What were Democrats afraid of if Biden continued on to November of 24?
And two, did he fully know and understand what the AUTOPEN was actually signing? Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey.
Did you know that
Anyway, Mr. Higher Honored James Comey, the coward that he is, ran to his favorite network, MSDNC, with some prostate cancer, but they won't die from prostate cancer test. And for the last 4 years, the president has enjoyed world-class medical care as president with rigorous testing, or what should have been rigorous testing. So the question tonight, what happened? Why are we learning about this stage 4 cancer diagnosis now? It is sadly metastasized to.
By the way, God bless Biden. God bless Joe Biden. So God bless him. I'm not like a rabid, wonderful, morally superior Democrat who wants to just end people if they don't disagree with them. God bless Joe Biden. I want him to live a much longer, happier life. But who is running the country? That's the issue.
It's very, very clear. There are people who knew and said nothing. And that is a crime against this republic. And I think the Democrats are going to pay for a long time for being a part of what is now being revealed to be a massive cover-up.
Now, every week since at least 2019, right here on this program, we sounded the alarm about Joe Biden's mental difficulties and his cognitive decline. Now, at the time, we were ridiculed, we were mocked, we were called conspiracy theorists, but every night we brought the tape to you, our viewers, very real, not cheap fake videos of Joe Biden struggling to function. They didn't do any of this on Fake News CNN or MSDNC or the three major networks. That would include, by the way, the Washington Post, New York Times. They lied to their readers. They lied to their viewers. They did it day after day. They did it night after night. And they lapped up whatever garbage the White House was feeding them about Joe Biden's. Oh, this has to do with the fact that he stutters, or, it's hard for us to keep up with him, even though we're only, 30 years old. Now, Fake Jake Tapper, he's poised to make a lot of money pretending that he and other journalists were a victim of a White House cover-up. Jake, if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, Did you really think it was strange that Joe was taking every weekend off while never doing any unscripted pressers, getting his questions ahead of time from your fellow journalists? Or what about falling again and again and wandering off stage and getting lost and never holding cabinet meetings? What about the Hur report? The special counsel declined to recommend charges in Biden's classified documents probe, not from a lack of evidence, but because they determined that Joe Biden wasn't fit to stand trial, or, as Hur himself put it, the president was an elderly man with a very poor memory. The Biden White House fought tooth and nail to prevent the audio of that interview from being released, and for good reason. Take a listen.
What was happening, though, 1 month ago, died, May 30th, 2018. 2015 he died.
Maybe 2015.
I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months are, but I think that was That's right, Mr. President.
And what's happened in the meantime is that Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. All right. So, why do I have 2017 here?
That's when you left office, January of 2017.
Okay. But that's when Trump gets sworn in.
Right.
January.
Right. Correct.
Okay. Yeah. And in 2017, Bo had passed, and this is personal.
He didn't know the year that his son passed. He didn't know the year that Donald Trump was elected. Now, my father died in late March of 1997. I remember it well. The meandering interview was really bad. There were points during the interview where Biden didn't make any sense at all. Take a listen.
You know, I went to Mongolia and great pictures. I unfortunately embarrassed the hell out of the leader of Mongolia. They were doing what they would do at the time of the invasion of the Mongols into Europe in the 800s. And so we're out in the middle of nowhere, and you're looking up on the hill and see this tiny line. You know, it's a 20-mile horse race with all these kids under the age of 16 on bareback racing to come down. And, you know, they're sumo wrestlers and doing everything they do. And so they walked over, and they had a target, big bales of hay 100 yards away. And these guerrillas were, you know, taking shots. And I don't know if it's embarrassed me or to make a point, but I handed the bow and arrow. I'm not a bad archer. But the only problem they were if I could pull it back. So and pure luck, I hit the target. No, I really did.
Whoever told Biden it was a good idea to run for re-election? Why did they lie to all of you?
Imagine if Donald Trump spoke in that manner, communicated in that manner. What would Jimmy Kimmel be doing every single night? Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, Seth Meyers. They would be so vicious. There would be so much venom and vitriol. Every joke would be even more malicious than they currently tell about President Trump. So the way that Democrats and the media and the public relations monstrosity works is that they cover up all of their corruption, all of their scandals. They covered up what took place with Biden, his mental decline. They went after Trump in the most vicious manner. But imagine if Trump had the cognitive decline of Biden. They would be ruthless. Let's continue.
You know, was it the woman pictured right there sitting at the head of Biden's last cabinet meeting, Dr. Jill Biden? Did she not know? Really? Are we to believe that? You know, did she not know firsthand about her husband and the cognitive struggles that were clear and obvious to anybody with eyes to see? Now, either she's delusional or she simply just flat out lied to everyone. and so did his staffers, and so did elected Democrats on the Hill, and the state-run legacy media mob. This is probably the biggest scandal in American presidential history, certainly the greatest national security threat in history. And so, like many Americans, I have questions about the timing of all of this. And while we're at it, could someone really tell us, who was in charge during Biden's years as president? Because it wasn't Joe. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here.
And here's where the Liz Cheney topic comes up. President Trump explains the crimes that she's accused of committing.
Are they going to be pursued? I can tell you this about Cheney, and she's a so-called Republican. I think she hurt the Democrats terribly. When I saw that Kamala put Cheney out on the campaign trail, I said, that's the end of Kamala. I really did. I thought it was a terrible move, especially if you're a Democrat. But Cheney did something that's inexcusable, along with Thompson and the people on the Unselect Committee of political thugs and, creeps. So the Unselect Committee went through a year and a half of testimony. Wait. They deleted and destroyed all evidence of that they found. You know why? Because Nancy Pelosi was guilty. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 troops. You wouldn't have had a J6 because other people were guilty. The people that said that I attacked 2 Secret Service agents in a car. I grabbed one around the neck. I was then rebuffed, and I grabbed the other one. These are 2 of the toughest men anywhere on the planet. They happen to be slightly younger than me, maybe, just a little bit. Let me just tell you. They testified. They said it was total.
There's tacos. Then there's Zach's.
And all of this stuff came out. People lied so badly. Now, listen, this was a committee, a big deal. They lied. And what did they do? They deleted and destroyed a whole year and a half worth of testimony. Do you know that I think those people committed a major crime.
Sir.
And Cheney was behind it. And so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee. For what they did, honestly, they should go to jail.
And so they almost certainly deleted and destroyed documents, which is a felony. And of course, they had a lot to hide, just like with everything that Democrats and never Trump Republicans have done the past 10 years. They withheld exculpatory evidence, video footage. But let's continue with this. This is very interesting.
Jail.
So you think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
For what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you think?
I think everybody anybody that voted in favor.
Are you going to direct your FBI director?
Destroyed all evidence of that they found. And she's a so-called Republican. I think she hurt the Democrats terribly. When I saw that Kamala put Cheney out on the campaign trail, I said, that's the end of Kamala. I really did. I thought it was a terrible move, especially if you're a Democrat. But Cheney did something that's inexcusable, along with Thompson and the people on the Unselect Committee of political thugs and, creeps. So the Unselect Committee went through a year and a half of testimony. Wait. They deleted and destroyed all evidence of that they found. You know why? Because Nancy Pelosi was guilty. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 troops. You wouldn't have had a J6 because other people were guilty. The people that said that I attacked 2 Secret Service agents in a car. I grabbed one around the neck. I was then rebuffed, and I grabbed the other one. These are 2 of the toughest men anywhere on the planet. They happen to be slightly younger than me, maybe, just a little bit. Let me just tell you. They testified. They said it was total. And all of this stuff came out. People lied so badly. Now, listen, this was a committee, a big deal. They lied. And what did they do? They deleted and destroyed a whole year and a half worth of testimony. Do you know that I think those people committed a major crime.
Sir.
And Cheney was behind it. And so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee. For what they did, honestly, they should go to jail.
So you think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
for what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you think?
I think everybody anybody that voted in favor.
Are you going to direct your FBI director and your attorney general to send them to jail?
No, not at all. I think that they'll have to look at that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to focus on drill, baby, drill.
When you say that, it carries weight, though. You've tapped these people to lead the Justice Department and FBI.
They can do whatever they want.
Okay.
Biden can give them a pardon if he wants.
The notion that everything wasn't purely political under Biden, all of the different indictments trying to imprison Trump during an election year. Of course, they don't have to go on Twitter and say, "Oh, we're going to get Trump." The way they do things is through media and bureaucracy, and it's purely political. Then they say we're nonpartisan. We're just trying to get Trump because nobody's above the law. It's like, no, everybody knows. That's why he won every swing state, the popular vote, the presidency the second time, after 10 years of the most apoplectic media coverage. Everybody knows that the average journalist, the average person that went after Trump in Washington, is a partisan of the Democratic Party. The entire world knows this.
He wants to, and maybe he should. Just remember, unselect committee, a year and a half of sworn testimony, and after getting all of the testimony, they deleted it, and they destroyed almost everything. There's nothing left. It's unprecedented.
And they deny
If you
doing
do that in a civil case, you go to jail.
You know they deny doing that, and officials say that the order never came in for the National Guard.
A statement.
On January 6th, let me ask you this about January 6th. I think
Benny
you're going to want to
Thompson
answer
wrote
this.
in a statement that he has destroyed all evidence.
Let me ask you this about
It's
January
amazing.
6th.
I wish you could be you have such potential. If you could be just non-biased, you hurt yourself so badly. I'm telling you, they deleted and destroyed all the evidence. Everyone knows it. And you slough it off like it doesn't mean anything.
No, I'm just saying they deny it. That's all I'm saying.
Kristen,
where's the example of a journalist telling Adam Schiff that Trump denies ever working with Russia? That's never happened.
if I did it, you would be standing up.
What are the
shouting at me, and you know what I'd do? I'd say, "You got me." They have done something so illegal. They have a committee sworn to, and because it was so bad, the only reason they did it is because the testimony turned out to be in favor of me, like Secret Service testified and disputed everything. It made them into a bunch of liars. Not Secret Service, it made the people. They got rid of it because it made Nancy Pelosi, the mayor of D.C., so many people look like criminals. And I will tell you, it's illegal for them to delete and to destroy that evidence.
Let me ask you about January.
So, as they were covering up Biden's mental decline, and before they forced Biden out, the January committee deleted and destroyed evidence because it was likely exculpatory. Video footage, evidence that could be used not only to indict Democrats or never Trump Republicans for framing that terrible day as only Trump's fault, but also exculpatory evidence withheld from people who were sent to jail for years without that and then once the Tucker Carlson footage came out of people being let into the building, people were actually acquitted after having been jailed. Okay, so what Democrats had done for the past 10 years is accuse Trump of being a Kremlin operative, an innocent man. Then they withheld exculpatory evidence to set up people, okay, not people who were violent, but people who were just were allowed into the Capitol building.
Cover-ups, intimidations, and obstructions. These are the themes that define today's Democratic Party. We start with the new revelations on the cover-up of Biden's decline. This week, former Biden senior aide Mike Donilon claimed ignorance of the mere existence of the AUTOPEN. And yet, we discovered the Biden team offered Donilon, get this, $8 million incentive if Biden won re-election, which raises some questions. How could someone this important in Biden's orbit be unaware of the AUTOPEN? And did this financial incentive encourage him to cover up Biden's declining mental state? It's Rhetorical Question Sunday, everyone. But just as disturbing is what we're learning the Biden team is doing outside of congressional committees, according to journalist Mark Halperin. They're intimidating Kamala Harris to keep her mouth shut about what she witnessed. Listen.
If the Biden people decide that Kamala Harris is coming after Joe Biden, wait till you hear the Palin-esque stories about how much they tried to help her be prepared to be vice president and be in a position to run, and how much they decided not happening. She's not up to this.
Now, the House still has a ways to go in their investigation. 6 more Biden aides are scheduled to testify through September, or at least plead the 5th. Former Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Bruce Reed will be brought in for questioning on Tuesday. Now, joining
any one of these people could face perjury charges or misleading or obstruction. Any one of these individuals could face obstruction charges or perjury or lying to Congress. They can't all have the same story because they all had different job titles. So it's possible that these people and a whole bunch of other people around Biden have a whole bunch of different stories. Well, that sets them up for a perjury trap.
Joining us live from the big close-up is Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, member of the House Oversight Committee. Congresswoman, are we only scratching the surface on these cover-ups? And what do you think they're hiding ultimately?
Most certainly, I'd have to say that they're absolutely hiding the fact that Biden did suffer from cognitive decline. And if I could just share with everyone, I actually remember having a conversation with a very prominent Democrat on the House floor when I was pushing for that inherent contempt vote on Garland for hiding the Her tapes. And what I can tell you is that Democrat stated, you know just as well as I know the state of the condition in which he's in. We don't have to push the topic or make it any more of a bigger controversy than it is. So the fact is that they all knew about it. And I do believe that we're not going to get much on the oversight investigations because I think that every single one of them is going to plead the 5th.
Molly?
Congresswoman, thanks for joining us on this Sunday evening. There is another potential scandal coming to light. DNI Tulsi Gabbard released testimony of a whistleblower in the intel community who describes being pressured to agree with Obama's 2017 assessment and ignore violations to tradecraft standards. A supervisor is claimed to have told the whistleblower, quote, "Isn't it possible Putin has something on Trump to blackmail him and coerce him?" And when the whistleblower pushed back, that supervisor allegedly said, quote, "I need you to say you agree with these judgments so that the Defense Intelligence Agency will go along with them." Now, Congresswoman, is the House Oversight Committee looking into these allegations? And does this suggest that the Obama intel community intimidated officials to skirt their own rules in order to create a false narrative?
And so this is the conspiracy statutes. This ties in with the conspiracy statutes that will be leveled in 3, 4, 5 months.
About Trump and Russia.
Oh, it doesn't just suggest it. I would say that it's proof, and it's not the first time that we've seen firsthand the Obama administration, whether it was the FBI or various members of the intelligence agency, using their position in order to either protect people or punish people to get a certain rise or a certain goal and objective. And what I will also follow up and say is that, I'm tired of Congress, though, just sending letters and making threats. I think the American people, many of us want to see people go to jail for this. The fact is that what the Obama administration did, what some of these officials did, was grossly negligent and also responsible for the civil liberties of many Americans, to include now the sitting president of the United States, President Trump. His civil liberties being violated. So what I would say is that these people need to be held to account for what they did, and they did indeed break the law.
Congressman.
So Congresswoman Luna is 100% correct. Let's continue.
Biden knew what was happening. I think that the AUTOPEN is one of the biggest scandals in the history of this country, because the person that operated the AUTOPEN was the president of the United States. And I think that that's going to be sought out, and we're going to find out what happened.
President Trump last weekend on Sunday Morning Futures discussing former President Biden's mental fitness while in office. The House Oversight Committee is now expanding its investigation into Biden's alleged mental decline. It is set to interview 5 members of the Biden administration, including former Chief of Staff Ron Klain, former counselor to the president Steve Ricchetti, former senior advisor to the president Mike Donilon, former Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Bruce Reed, and former senior advisor to the president for communications Anita Dunn. The committee will also get a deposition from Biden's former physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, this week. Joining me now with more on all of this is my second favorite House Oversight Committee Chairman, James Comer. Chairman, thanks so much for joining us here on Sunday Morning Futures. I say that because I used to be the chairman, so you're definitely ahead of Trey Gowdy. I can promise you that. Tell us, though, seriously, where are you at with this investigation? Tell us where you're at with this investigation and who's up next.
Dr. O'Connor is scheduled to come in Wednesday for a deposition. We asked him to come in, and he agreed to come in a few weeks ago. Then he declined the night before. So I issued him a subpoena. We're serious about this investigation. You heard from President Trump on this show last week. This is something that he's very interested in. Pam Bondi has announced an investigation at the Department of Justice into the illegal use of the AUTOPEN. So we're very interested. Dr. O'Connor's going to come in. We have a lot of questions about the health reports that he would issue to the American people about Joe Biden that I don't think anyone in America, including the most liberal person on MSNBC or the biggest Democrat in America, believes that Joe Biden was anywhere near as healthy as Dr. O'Connor would continuously publish. So we've been consulting with Ronnie Jackson, who's a member of Congress and who was President Trump's doctor during his first term.
They can start indicting people who lied and covered up Biden's mental and other decline. If the president of the United States leads the United States of America, has to be capable of leading the most powerful country in the world. What Democrats did is they catapulted somebody they knew did not have the mental capacity at the moment to lead the country. So they had a whole bunch of staffers and advisors and lawyers and politicians around him. And if these people get indicted, they'll all turn on each other because it was a cover-up. The Clinton email scandal was a cover-up. Hunter's laptop was a cover-up. Biden's presidency was a cover-up. The AutoPen pardons are a cover-up. They cover up everything. And by the way, every scandal is a Kremlin plot to inform you, a Russian plot to inform you of how corrupt they are.
In the White House, we have a lot of medical questions. We have a lot of legal questions for Dr. O'Connor. So he's going to have an opportunity Wednesday to come and tell the truth and explain how he continuously issued glowing reports of health from Joe Biden.
Tell us a little bit about Anthony Bernal. He's the former chief of staff to Jill Biden, the first lady. He was supposed to come in and chat with the committee as well.
Yeah, and that's another issue that we've had. He did not come in. What's happened, Jason, is President Trump waived executive privilege. And what we think was going to happen when they all initially agreed to come in voluntarily was that they were going to plead executive privilege and not answer our questions. They don't have that. President Trump's waived it. They're going to have to answer our questions. And if they don't answer our questions, or if they don't show up for these transcribed interviews and depositions, then we will hold them in contempt of Congress. Our whole conference is united behind getting the truth to this. We want to know who was authorizing the use of the AutoPen. We've brought in, a witness already that's identified the inner circle. The witness that was actually putting in, that was Neritan, and that was putting in the documents into the AutoPen. But she was never around Joe Biden. He never said, here's the documents, put it in. We're identifying that inner circle. Dr. Connor is obviously a big part of the equation, because we believe, just as Jake Tapper has written, what we believe Jean-Pierre is going to write in her book, that there was a massive cover-up of Joe Biden's mental decline, and there was a select inner circle, and we believe Bernal, who was Jill Biden's chief of staff, was a major part of that inner circle. So we're going to give everybody their due process. They're going to be able to come in and explain. But the purpose of this investigation is the fact that there were many executive orders and many pardons that were signed with an AUTOPEN. And as you have discovered, Jason, many of these were signed on days when Joe Biden was supposedly in the White House. Why couldn't he have signed it, his name right there? Why did they have to use an AUTOPEN? And why was it such a secretive process? So there are major legal implications of this investigation, and hopefully we'll be able to get the truth to the American people, and hopefully do it in a very rapid manner.
All of these books will get people indicted. John Bolton wrote a book, and that was a key moment in why he was indicted. So it's like these people are committing crimes, cover-ups, and they're writing books also. I mean, it would be the equivalent of a bank robber posting the robbery on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, Instagram.
Yeah, if I have the number right, my recollection is something like 75% of the AUTOPEN signatures happened while President Biden was at the White House. Why would you need an AUTOPEN if you're residing in the White House? That's a stunning...
Exactly.
Chairman, you're doing an amazing job.
Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. It's below in the pinned comment and description. I will be back in probably about 5-6 p.m. Eastern for the next live stream. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen. This is a huge, huge story, ladies and gentlemen. Huge story. And you don't want to be one of his staffers. You don't want to be one of his staffers right now, because you likely face indictment from Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and John Radcliffe and others. Hit subscribe right now. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you soon.